Mr. Corey, do you have any recommendations?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I have a recommendation to move H6.
Right before that? Okay. Okay. Anything else?
And then 12 is up to you.
About tabling it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because Mrs. Harden wanted to be here for that.
Which one?
Item 12, the superintendent's evaluation.
Okay. That's table.
Huh?
We table that.
Yeah, Mr. Corey asked we could table.
With regard to the superintendent's evaluation, you have plenty of time, since we're tabling especially, we should use the one that's in our policies. This is off our superintendent evaluation, and it's one of the procedures or regulations, as the state would call it. And it's the one we used last year.
We had a board retreat and we all agreed to the new evaluation form that aligned with our strategic plan.
The
We were all in
policy,
we were all in attendance at that meeting
The-
where we said, yes, that would be good, so we're in alignment with our strategic plan.
Not in the sense that we have a policy in place, and the policy actually has a much better evaluation than that one that was done, because we didn't actually approve an evaluation. We agreed that the evaluation should mirror the strategic plan. But in either case, to change a policy requires public hearings, and we never engaged in either the first reading or the second reading. And so regardless of whether we came to an agreement, the agreement should have resulted in the changing of the policy. Until then, the policy is in effect.
Okay, so we'll table and I'll send out that form in our policies that currently exist. And then I'll put a request to put first reading of the new evaluation. Is everyone okay with that?
I don't see the value of the evaluation we have because it does not provide for narrative. It's a simple high, low, medium type thing and response for everything. And
It did provide a narrative. If you scroll down from the question, it says any additional comments for each section. I included that in the Google form.
okay, and I'll take another look at it then.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item 3, public input. Item A, agenda items. Mr. Almendares, I see you want to speak. Did you want to speak on agenda items or items of concern? Okay. Let me just read the rules real quick. The board provides the opportunity to speak on either agenda items or items of concern or both in order to ensure that each individual has the opportunity to address the board. The board provides a speaker up to a total of 5 minutes to speak during one of the designated public input times. The board president will recognize the speakers, maintain proper order, and ensure adherence to the time limit of 30 minutes for all public input speakers and a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker. The president may also set a time limit of less than 5 minutes for individual speakers based upon the number of requests received. Questions of fact asked by the public shall, when appropriate, be answered by the president or referred to the superintendent for reply. No action or discussion shall transpire among the board members regarding such questions or comments. Questions requiring investigation shall be referred to the superintendent for later report to the board. Questions or comments on matters that are currently under legal review will not receive a response. Personal attacks on board members, staff personnel, or other persons in attendance or absence by individuals who address the board are discouraged. Confidential personnel matters regarding district employees should be discussed with the superintendent or the employee supervisor. We also request that you do not discuss students who are not your own child. Presenters are cautioned that statements or representations concerning others that convey an unjustly unfavorable impression may subject the presenter to civil action for defamation. For the safety of yourself and others, signs and placards are not permitted in the boardroom. However, you are invited to express your concerns during public input or submit your concerns to the board in writing. Okay, you have 5 minutes.
My comments are as a direct, when I looked at the proposed agenda for this meeting, and I saw item I, which I'm not sure that it was in that particular order at the time, but it was the discussion and possible censure, verbal, written, removal of privileges of Board Member Gilbert Guadiana for violations of Board Policy B-0750 BCA. And as I read that, I thought, what did Gilbert do now? And it appeared to me like this is another attempt to paint Mr. Guadiana in a bad light. Who's doing it or who did it, I don't know. I don't personally don't care. However, I think that everything that I've read in the newspaper and everything seems to be with that light and without, if you want to say, full knowledge of events and so on and so forth. I also had asked to be on the second second part of that thing. So if I go over a little bit over 5 minutes, please indulge me a little bit.
Sure.
So my second item of concern is a letter to the editor that was submitted by Ms. Gabby Begay from Arenas Valley on January the 7th to the Silver City Daily Press, in which Ms. Begay it says, and I'll quote, "As a former student regent of the university, I call on the current regents to step down immediately. New leadership must be brought in, leaders who will prioritize the future of WNMU and hold accountable those responsible for the corruption that has damaged the university." Unquote. I'll quote again. "It's time to end the corruption, bullying, misappropriation of funds, and harmful status quo that has held Western New Mexico University and its community for far too long." End of quote. So, in my opinion, you open this Pandora's box. It seems to me that there has been a concerted effort to delay and not, in other words, you're not, before accusing the Board of Regents, you're not looking back to yourself in the mirror. There has not been any, I've been on the audit committee for over 2 years, and we are at square one still after 2 years. I asked to speak to you about it at the last meeting. After the last meeting, I wasn't familiar with the formalities and everything. And the only thing I got out of that conversation was, I just wish this would all go away. And my concern is that, and I am concerned about these people, their kids. I don't have any kids in the system anymore. Not even my grandkids or great-grandkids, they're all out of here. And it makes me sad because we are not moving forward on what needs to be done to address their issues, what has happened. And I know, you know, I don't need to elaborate on a lot of this stuff, but there's like I say, right now, we are, I believe, 3, if not 4 audits behind. There's no motions. Everything that has happened continues to be kicked down the road. Oh, we're not there yet. We don't have the information that is needed. And for the life of me, I can't imagine why we still don't have those audits in order. It's not rocket science. The items that are missing, that are incomplete, addition. Are there any math features here? It's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Calculations, that's it. So I just ask you to look back, and the way, I really hesitated about coming tonight. But in my opinion, the sorry situation is, if you see something, you should speak up. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And I ask for all of you to consider, if you're going to be considering board leadership in these, and maybe not, I don't know what you're doing, but we also need the change that Ms. Begay is requesting from Western, because we're not moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Almendares.
Thank you.
Okay. Caitlin, is there any other stuff on mind for items of concern? Or agenda items? Anyone else here? Okay. That moves us to item 4, I'm sorry, H6. We have a parent who would like to be a part of the audit committee. Angelica Trujillo. Did you want to speak, or do you want me to read your letter, or how would you like to proceed?
After Mr. Almendares' speech. No, I would just hope to come so you guys could appoint me. My letter still stands.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read it if you don't mind. It just says, "Dear Charlene, I saw your advertisement on the Cobre Media Facebook page. I'm a resident of Grant County and have 2 children attending the Cobre Consolidated School District. I'm interested in volunteering on the audit committee. I am currently a supervising senior with Carr, Riggs, and Ingram, a top 20 CPA firm. I work in the audit department and work mainly on government jobs, specializing in school districts and federal funding. Thank you for your consideration, and please feel free to reach out with any questions you may have. Sincerely, Angelica Trujillo." Any discussion? Okay, I'd entertain a motion that we approve Ms. Trujillo.
I move that we approve her for the audit committee.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Charlene said that she would email me all the information.
Yes.
so that I could-
Thanks. Okay, so that's item A, Coordinator of HR/Data, Ms. Norma Ramirez.
Good afternoon, President Begay, members of the board, and Superintendent Corey. Mr. Guadiana, during my last presentation, you asked about the percentage of teachers who left the district and those we retained, as well as the creation of an exit interview questionnaire for our departing employees. So for this school year, 10 teachers or 13% have left the district, while 67 teachers or 87% have remained. Of those 10 vacant positions, 6 have been filled and 4 remain open. I'm going to pass out our updated district list along with that exit interview questionnaire.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've just provided you with the updated district vacancy, and that's as of this afternoon. And then also the exit interview questionnaire that we've created that we are giving to the employees that leave. Okay, and finally, we've filled several positions, which include science teacher, art teacher, computer technician, purchasing procurement specialist, educational assistant, custodian, and our boys basketball assistant coach. You guys have any questions for me?
Special education still seems to be a problem. Is there a strategy to try?
Well, all of the positions that have been listed all year, those are currently being contracted, and I think we've mentioned that in other meetings. So we don't have any applicants to actually apply for those positions. Our special education positions for teacher, we've received a few applicants, so they're being reviewed. They're currently being reviewed.
Also, what is going to happen with the data from the exit interviews?
They are being reviewed by myself and Mr. Corey, and then they're being placed in the employee's personnel file upon them leaving. And we are taking everything into consideration.
Would it be something that the board might want to review such, those documents, most likely in closed session? But it would be good for us to get a sense of whether it was a move because they somebody got a job someplace else and they were left, or they had something to say about their employment chair.
So I believe because it's regarding personnel, we're unable to share that information. I'm not sure about executive session, if that's something that you can discuss, but they're available in their files.
You can ask legal counsel.
Yeah, I was
See if
gonna
that's
say,
okay.
I'm not sure how to answer that correctly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Is the questionnaire available like on a Google form or just a paper?
I have it
pencil?
on a Word document, but I can put it on a Google form. So whenever an employee leaves, there's an exit well, we have this form, the questionnaire, along with a checkout form that they have to check out with all of their forwarding information. And then areas where we sign off to make sure they've turned in their equipment, their keys, things like that. So it's attached.
Okay.
They get it, and then, but I can definitely make it a Google document and
I'm just
available.
thinking if they had to like move and if they wanted to fill it out, if they could have it in
Oh,
an
yeah.
electronic format.
Yeah, absolutely, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ms. Ramirez?
One more. Are you aware of any job fairs that might be an option for expanding our recruitment efforts?
I want to say Western always has one in April, and we have attended a couple and have not been successful. Not very many people attend anyway, but we haven't been successful in even getting one applicant the 2 times that we've gone, but it's something that we can definitely look into further.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I think that's it. Thank you
Okay,
so
thank
much.
you.
Okay, that moves us to item B, Principal of San Lorenzo Elementary, Shay Beeble.
Miss Beeble isn't in attendance this evening. Her daughter had a basketball game, so we moved her to another evening.
Okay, thank you. All right, then item C, Principal of Central Elementary, Ms. Roxana Ross.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. 36.
Me too.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Madam President. It is, and can you guys hear me? I'm so short. It is an honor to stand before you to highlight the incredible progress and dedication that define our school community. Each individual on our team plays a vital role in the growth and success of our students. And today I want to share some of the remarkable stories and the results we've seen this year. I'm going to do a quick run through because you've all heard my speech a month ago. Let's begin by celebrating Ms. Lowry, who works tirelessly to support her intervention students. Her unwavering dedication ensures that every student she works with has the opportunity to grow and thrive. Her efforts are complemented beautifully by Ms. Hernandez, who teaches Spanish in a way, I apologize, who teaches Spanish in a way that is both engaging and fun, inspiring a love of the language and culture among her students. Our pre-K team, led by Ms. Annabelle, is setting the foundation for success with the support of Ms. Nati and Ms. Jasmine, creating an environment where students are learning and they're thriving. I also want to highlight the extraordinary work of our classroom teachers, who are nothing short but amazing. Their passion, dedication, and innovative teaching strategies create engaging learning environments where students not only succeed but also develop a love for learning. Their tireless efforts are the backbone of our academic achievements and the heart of our school. Our school is also enriched by the contributions of Cassie and Angelica, our university fellows, whose enthusiasm and commitment have made them invaluable assets to our team. Behind the scenes, Ms. Barragan, our administrative assistant, keeps our school running smoothly with her attention to detail and dedication. Meanwhile, Vero and Ronald ensure our campus remains clean, safe, and welcoming, creating an optimal environment for learning. In the library, Ms. Debbie inspires growth in reading, with students showing improvements in both accelerated reading programs and STAR tests. At the same time, Mrs. Fowler, affectionately known as Mrs. Flower, provides compassionate counseling, supporting students emotionally and socially. In the nurse's office, Ms. Lena and Ms. Pam are a constant source of care and compassion, while Ms. Angela shows up every day with unwavering dedication to her one-on-one student. Her love and patience are a true example of the heart and commitment that define our staff. We also want to highlight Mr. Montes, our special ed teacher, who works hand in hand with classroom teachers to implement an outstanding inclusion model. Together, they've achieved remarkable growth in our SPED students. In third grade, in the IMESA reading, our SPED students scored 4 out of 6 students show increased. Fourth grade IMESA reading 2 out of 4. In fifth grade IMESA reading 5 out of 6. In third grade IMESA math 4 out of 4 special ed students increased. In fourth grade IMESA math 4 out of 4 students increased. In fifth grade math IMESA 4 out of 5 students increased. Third grade iStation reading 5 out of 6 students increased. In fourth grade iStation reading, 4 out of 4 students increased, and in fifth grade iStation reading, 4 out of 5. These accomplishments, along with significant overall gains, showcase the incredible work happening across all grades. In kindergarten and first grade, we saw kindergarten math scores grow 30%. In first grade, math scores were on the rise by 50%. In kindergarten reading, they improved by 43%. First grade reading increased by 20%. Our third, fourth, and fifth graders demonstrated tremendous growth in IMESA. Third grade math, a 52 shift from need support to near target. In fourth grade math, 60% shift from need support to near target. Fifth grade math increased 13%. In reading, upper grade growth was equally impressive. Third grade showed a 20% increase. In fourth grade, 14% increase, and in fifth grade, 38% increase. In ELA, consistent improvements were seen. Third grade, 5% increase, fourth grade, 4% increase, and fifth grade, 4%. As much as we celebrate academic gains, we also recognize the importance of creating a positive and supporting school environment. Attendance and discipline have showed spectacular improvements this year as we continue to implement our school-wide discipline matrix. This structured approach promotes consistency, accountability, and positive behavior, and we are seeing the benefits reflecting in the atmosphere of our school every day. And I do have some papers to demonstrate for you guys with all of this information, but I didn't want to take up your time.
This is MOI stuff that you...
Yes, because Mr. Guadiana had said BOY to MOY. You're very welcome.
Pictures are my favorite.
Look at the one right here.
I heard Mr. Corey was a great conductor of the Polar Express.
We had a lot of fun that day.
We've had a lot of celebrations. It's hard to show you everything that we do in the semester, but one of the big hits was the Polar Express. I also want to give a big shout out to Carlos Escobar. If you see the castle right there on the left-hand corner, he painted that castle on our wall. It is incredible, and he's just an amazing person, very kind. I don't have enough good things to say about him. So you're all welcome to come and please see this amazing wall that he did. And thank you, Mr. Corey, for conducting our train.
Had fun.
Any questions?
Yes. Some of the data you have here has end of year?
No. Oh, because, hold on. Did I put EOY or did I, instead of MOY, did I make a
No,
mistake?
you have BOY, MOY, and EOY.
But your box is on target, so...
Oh, yeah, sorry. I meant on target. I'm sorry. I messed those up.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I was doing them at midnight last night.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's,
not
it's,
EOY,
see
it's
the,
not
see
EOY.
the thing on the right side, it says near support, near target, or on target. Yes, I'm sorry, I messed that one up. I don't know what I was thinking. Yes, I will redo it and give it to you. I apologize. Thank you, that was a great question. But yeah, you can see how the near target on the beginning of the year, so the left side is beginning of the year, the right side is middle of the year. That's what I meant to put. It says it on the bottom. I don't know why I did those. It says it on the bottom. So at the beginning, like if you look at the, let's see, let's look at the reading. If you go to the reading for fifth grade, at the beginning of the year, need support was at 33%, near target was at 58%, and on target was 8%. Now in the middle of the year, her BOY is 21, the need support is 21%, the near target is 33%, and the on target is 46%. I apologize for that. It's because I changed it a million times trying to figure out an easy way to show you the growth and but yeah, at the bottom of the chart you can see how it says BOY and MOY.
So when you mentioned the improvements, there's still a substantial amount that fall in the category of need support?
Yes, sir. Yes. And we all working, so they were tremendous. The need support was incredibly, we had so many kids. So little by little, we're moving them forward. So hopefully the next time that we present, we'll have them moved even further. It's just taking us a while because we had so many low kids.
What are things that can help you promote the success even more so?
Probably classroom motivation. I mean, we're all very positive and we all try to support our kids as much as we can, but we are working at changing our intervention time and really focusing in on the things that are needed to improve the growth or to improve the
Are you
kids.
looking at increased time or a different time of
Not
day?
not increased time, just being more intentional with our time, using it you know, just really honing in on looking during the PLC times at what it is that the kids are missing and then focusing on those things specifically. I'm also giving more intervention people to the upper grades this time to help give them more support.
Is there sufficient staffing regarding interventions?
Of course, everybody can always use more
That's
people.
what-
That's a given, no matter what district you ask or what school you ask. But yes, as of right now, we're doing with what we have, and everybody's just very happy. And we're a very collaborative school, so we all work together to support one another. So all of the people that are not in the classrooms are more than happy to come in and really help.
Can you describe about what a student would see in interventions on a given day or week?
So when they come into their intervention class, the teacher has pre-planned the 3 groups. So we have a low group, a middle group, and a high group. And so the people are in there. The teacher has already pre-planned the lessons for each group. The kids come in. They come in from recess is what happens during that time. And the teacher already has them ready. She has a schedule of who's going to what group. She calls them. They go to that group that particular time. And then they do either whatever it is the teacher has planned for them. If it's math, they could do a small group instruction on what they've learned for that week. They can do a freckles, or they can work on iStation.
So approximately, like, in minutes, how much would they get in a day or a week?
They get, depending on the grade level, the lower grades get 30 minutes, the upper grades get 45 at the very end of the day. And I know that some people will tend to say they're already tired by that day, but we don't want to break up their blocks in the morning for it. And it also gets the parents not to pick them up early because I'm always telling them the importance of keeping them there for interventions.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, it seems like you're on the right trajectory. Teachers are doing interventions and they're working. There's an increase in MOI. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you for all of your
Thank you.
support. We appreciate you very much, and please come visit us anytime.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us to item D, Principal of Bayard Elementary, Wendy Town. And if you need to get up and leave, don't be embarrassed. Just you can get up and leave and go have dinner with your family.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
So first of all, I want to start off with thank you. It's Board Appreciation Month. So Bayard has brought you a basket of lots of different things for the board and Mr. Corey and for Charlene for always having to meet. So enjoy.
Thank you.
I don't even know what all is in there, but there's a lot of things in
Nothing's
there.
homemade. That's just directly at Lucinda.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So there's something in there we know that you like in particular that we put in there. So on the front is the agenda that I want to go over. I think I touched on this at the last one. We are changing our PLC so that the first and third Wednesday of the month will be a focus on math. And then the second and fourth Wednesday of the month, we will focus on reading, so that we're really looking at the data. And then I'll go into a little bit more of why we're going to do that in a little bit. So talking about PLCs, the first PLC of this month, we had training on January 6th on Beyond Textbooks. And so that is a very nice resource for the teachers to use that has already done a lot of the work for us that we were already doing at Bayard. So we have a Brave Academy time that's set for 45 minutes for intervention for third, fourth, and fifth. And we focus on core instruction. So whatever the students didn't do well on their exit ticket for last week, we work on that the next week. So for that 45 minutes, they get that instruction. We do 2 days of ELA and 2 days of math. Then at the end of that time, we also give another little exit ticket. How did they do for that Brave Academy? And through the PLCs, we did rigor. We looked at the vocabulary, the skills, the misconceptions. Within Beyond textbooks, they already have that. What it provided was us one more piece that we were missing, which were descriptors of where the students are based on their work. So instead of doing low, medium, and high, we now have 4 different categories, because intervention isn't just for struggling students. It's also for the enrichment. And Beyond textbooks offers an enrichment. So that is one thing that we're focusing on with our Brave Academy. It's struggling students who are almost there, students that need practice who are there, and then what can we do for those students who are already there to enrich them and move them forward. So the teachers have really gotten into that. What we did at our PLC was they have essential standards, which you may know as power standards or different terms. We went through and they looked at their calendar and the standards we've already taught so that they can look at what's still left for essential standards to plan for the rest of the school year. And so that's what we will be working on during PLCs. I did want to talk about discipline. Discipline has gotten so much better. We're using a 4-quadrant. I have only had 2 write-ups since I've moved into this position permanently now. So the teachers are being more cognizant, and I have them use a form to write down so that we can look at patterns. What's going on? Why are they acting this way? Are they hungry? Is it right before math? Is it right before ELA? So our discipline has really declined, and we're able to help the students with behavior, not just put a Band-Aid on it, but try to support them in regulating their behavior and helping them make the right decisions. The culture of Bayard, I've had many parents, people that have come in to work have really enjoyed the culture at Bayard. We seem to be more positive. Teachers seem happier, so I'm really proud that that's happening. The next thing is, it's a handout. It's a structured literacy walkthrough tool that we have to use. So we have our structured literacy coach, Deborah Villalba, who comes in. And that's one reason why we changed our PLCs, because of this schedule that she and I created. So the week that we have math focus on PLC, we will be going in and looking at that structured literacy walkthrough. We've decided to chunk it. I've gone through and done my walkthroughs as needed as principal, but now we're chunking it and really focusing on, we're only going to look for this area, and then the next week during the ELA PLC time, we will be talking with the teachers. This is what we saw. These are some things that are awesome. Here's some strategies that you might be able to implement. We're going to do that until March. And then the teachers have asked that we work on writing. So the rest of the year, we will be focusing on writing during ELA with the teachers. So that's the calendar we'll be using. The next thing on the agenda is the iStation data, which is handouts. And so what I gave you is the same teacher on the same page. You have your August data and your December data on one page. And then at the bottom, I gave what's going on. So even though some of it doesn't look like things are happening, when you really go in and look at the data, we have kindergartners who are doing alphabetic decoding, which is a first grade skill. And they don't get alphabetic decoding until first grade. So those who are already getting alphabetic decoding, they're above where they need to be. For kindergarten in one teacher's class, and I did it by class because it's easier to, we have different dynamics in each class. So by looking at it that way, we're showing growth. There's no red, no level 1, no at-risk students at the beginning of the year, nor at the middle of the year. So kudos to those teachers for maintaining and helping those students grow. Sometimes so this is an indicator. This is not an assessment, so I want to make that clear. This is an indicator. It's a screener. It is not a full assessment because it is adaptive. It's called CAT, Computer Adaptive Test. So as the students do well, it bumps them up, and it keeps bumping them up and keeps bumping them up. So the data, you have to know, changes because the students get new vocabulary words, harder vocabulary words, that that they may not have been exposed to before this assessment. So the data is, that's why it fluctuates. 1 month it's really good, and the next month it may not look like that. You have to look at individual scores and where the students are. So for kindergarten in both classes, alphabetic decoding, you don't see it on here yet, and new vocabulary. If you go to first grade, one thing that's huge is in kindergarten, they have phonemic awareness and letter knowledge, which is letter recognition and letter sounds. And in first grade, if you look at the far right, you can see how many there are. And they are part of that assessment. And then if you look at the MOY, look how much better it is. When the students do well on a skill, it will drop them off. So you have to keep that in mind too when you look at data. Now they're dropped off and they're getting harder concepts or skills that are a little bit higher. So they're doing really well with letter knowledge and letter recognition. Phonemic awareness is a hard one. I would like for all people to be able to take that phonemic awareness test, because even I, when you listen to students without headphones, I'm like, what did they say? I don't even understand what they said. So it's a difficult assessment for those kiddos. And
Sorry to interrupt real quick. Charlene, would you mind turning back on the heater? I think some of us are freezing now. I'm sorry.
I'm cold. I didn't want to put my jacket on. It's cold. Second grade, they're both in about the same place. If you put them side by side, they're about the same. So those students are about the same. One thing that we are making a change on, and it happened before Christmas, and so you can see there's an increase in vocabulary. Second grade is now doing what fourth and fifth grade are doing. We have one teacher who's teaching ELA and social studies, and one teacher teaching math, science, and vocabulary because of time. And you can see an increase in vocabulary in just the couple of weeks that they started changing. So we're going to see, I think, even a greater improvement with that. Then after that, you have the handout of our IMESA data. So I need to kind of explain what you're looking at before you can understand it. On here, I have the beginning of the year and the end of year. So the first sheet, and fifth grade is on the back of the first sheet, is reading. And you can see that at the beginning of the year, we had 10 students who were needs support and 9 students who were at target or on target. And then in the middle of the year, we had 10 students who need support and 11 students who are now on target. And then over to the side, I think this is important that I point out. There are 6 students at near target where only 8 or less points away. That's 2, 3, or 4 questions that if they get them correct, they'll be on target. And so that's how I filled this form out. So the first one is reading, and you can see third, fourth, and then on the back is fifth, because I only wrote that information on the MOY area. And then the same thing for language. And I have to point out, I think third grade's doing an awesome job with everything that they've gone through so far. They're holding their own. Fifth grade, I can talk about fourth and fifth grade math not showing much growth. When we made our calendar for this year, and we met as teachers when I was still in that role, we put all of the foundational skills up front: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, all of the foundational number sense. They're starting fractions now, and our test is heavy on fractions. So in fourth and fifth, even though it doesn't look like there's much support, we have a lot at near target, and they're getting the instruction that they need now that will be heavy on the test, so it's fresh on their mind. Plus now, fractions is division, decimals is division, so they'll be able to do that because we've already focused on that skill of the foundation piece. I know that's a lot of data, but I'm proud of it. I think we're doing well. If you have any questions about the data.
having, on the last page, there's, when you're dealing with mathematics, there's really a substantial amount that are in the part that needs support.
Okay, and the reason why is because we have not hit fractions yet. And that's the majority of the test. That's the way that we did our calendars. We did all of our foundations up front, and when we came back in January, in November and December, they worked on volume, which is heavy on the test. And then the rest of the semester before testing will be fractions. And that's what they will be tested on, fractions, decimals, percents, things like that.
And that's pervasive through all the grades, or is that just, well, that would be up the
Fourth and fifth.
Yeah.
Fourth and fifth.
Okay.
Third grade, I was not on their calendar. And again, we've had so many teachers, different places in there. But Miss Provencio has made huge gains with those students. You had to get behavior and management there before you could have some teaching going on. There's a lot of good things going on in that classroom. Still needs some work, but she's done an amazing job with those students. They feel confident with the math that they're doing. We have a third grader who learned division in one day and just can't get enough. He just wants more and more and more and more. Can't get him to do anything else, but he can do division. But that's a positive. You work on their strengths.
So that's the third grade you're talking about? And you inherited quite a chore there. And so hearing this is a great relief. And
We're
a
doing great
testament.
things. We're doing
Yeah.
great things. I'm very proud of Bayard.
Okay.
How did your staff respond to beyond textbooks? What was the
They liked
talk
it.
in the room?
They liked it. We were going to do a soft rollout, but Bayard is not. I feel like we are prepared because we do have that intervention time already in place. We were already doing the unwrapped documents. By the way, we were doing our PLCs and looking at our lessons for the week and creating our exit tickets. So I feel like we're one step ahead because of what we were already doing. And so during PLC, it was get in there, let's look at the standards that we've taught, what we haven't taught, so that we can create that plan to move forward.
And the scope and sequence, because they were creating a scope and sequence for the district, right? How are they feeling about that?
So we haven't looked at that yet. Right now, we're focusing on the standards, what they have taught and what they haven't taught. To me, that's most important because then we can look at either our calendar or their calendar because it depends on the essential elements that they chose and where they have them in their calendar. So we're having to kind of look at both. But we're focusing on the standards. That's what we're going to focus on.
And they're aligned to the New Mexico standards or the Arizona?
So they're common core. The only thing that's aligned to the Arizona standards is the social studies, the science or the NGSS. So everything is common core. The only thing that is Arizona is social studies. So
Okay,
it's all standards based.
sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us to item 5, our finance committee report. So we held our finance committee, I think right before we went on break. We talked at length about the finance committee charter. It was a census of the whole committee not to adopt a charter for the finance committee. We did say there's definitely room for improvement, especially around school budget. But we felt like our finance department was doing a better job than it had in the past. We also we spent a good 45 minutes, an hour on the finance committee charter. Mr. Esqueda is a good sounding board as always, and so he agreed to that we're making good progress, but there is always room for improvement, which we all agreed. We discussed the first quarter financial report. We also covered bills, and then, of course, the budget decrease and the budget transfer. Did I leave anything out? David? No? Anything else that I failed to? Okay. That concludes our finance committee report. Item 6, our audit committee report.
We had a meeting last Wednesday, and there was a lot of discussion regarding the proposed changes to the policy, and we went through the policy as it pertains to the audit committee, and I'm kind of confused as to what you're talking about in terms of working on a charter, because we prepared a charter, and now the most recent initiative is to incorporate the changes into the board policy. So, would it be now that we're wanting the audit committee to have a policy and finance committee have a charter?
No, you had brought forward an audit committee
Yes.
charter.
Yes.
And so I brought forward a finance committee charter, and it was the census of the finance committee to just follow the state statute that's already listed.
That's good, but
That's good.
council put together a recommendation for policy for the finance subcommittee draft guidelines, and then also the audit subcommittee draft guidelines. And that's the ones that we went over this last meeting, based on the recommendations that were being forwarded from council. So I'm still confused as to we're going to go the charter route or we're going to go the policy route.
Well, as of right now, finance is gonna stay in line with the state statute, and you can bring forward any recommendations from audit committee. But we, like I said, discussed it in detail and gave the document to everyone. Frank, do you wanna speak to it? David, do you wanna speak to anything that we discussed?
I mean, we just talked about policy, we talked about, I mean, if it's not broken, why are we gonna try to change things? We're happy with where the finance committee is headed, what it's been doing. So we opted to not do charter.
Frank, did you wanna speak to it?
Yes, yeah, in our discussion, we, just like what Mr. Terrazas has stated, is that if it's not broke, don't fix it. Everything's working well for us. We follow the state statute, and we've had a pretty good committee. It works, and everything's working fine, and so we decided to stick with what we're doing.
The audit committee's initial work towards a charter was heavily scrutinized, and it only really expanded from the statutes to do more of assessment and documentation, or assessment and recommendations for improving the financial controls that are in place. And it is consistent with many of the other school boards that have adopted charters, because the state statute is not all encompassing. And we wanted to detail what it is that we're going to do that would help us do our job in terms of assessing the effectiveness of financial controls, monitoring, and accounting for monies received. So we have, if we're going, at this point, we agreed on going forward with changing the policies. And I can read them now. And that would be under New Mexico State Statute 1978, Section 22-8-12-3. Each local school board is required to have an audit committee. The purpose of this audit committee is to fulfill the statutory responsibilities as required by the state legislature. And that is what was proposed by the council, and we're fine with incorporating that. Then it goes into membership, and it goes, the Cobre School Board shall appoint audit committee that consists of 2 board members, 1 volunteer member who is a parent of a student attending the district schools, and at least 1 volunteer member who has experience in accounting and financial matters. These appointments shall be made by the board during the board organizational meeting and after the board elects a president, vice president, secretary, and at the first meeting in January. That was, again, language proposed by council. We didn't have a problem with that. We did add at least one volunteer member, so that if we do add another member like we have already, we can continue to maintain those that are in place now, to go through at least the part of their institutional knowledge of everything that we've done so far in terms of the special audits and the 3 audits that are still outstanding. And then it goes to, let's see, continuing on that paragraph, the superintendent and the business manager will serve as ex officio members, that is, by the virtue of their office, and members of the committee. I'm sorry, ex officio members of the committee. The board shall also appoint a chair. The chair shall be a board member. In the event of a vacancy on the committee, the board shall fill the vacancy at the next regular meeting. And that, again, was language provided, suggested by the attorney and by council, and we accepted that. Duties, and again, most of this, the audit committee shall evaluate the request for proposals for annual financial audit services, recommend the selection of the financial auditor, and attend the entrance and exit conference for the annual audit and special audits, including the district-initiated special audits. That last part was recommended by the attorney and approved by the committee. To meet with external financial auditors at least monthly after the audit fieldwork begins and until the conclusion of the audit. Be accessible to external financial auditors as requested to facilitate communication with the board and the superintendent. Track and report progress on the status of the most recent audit findings and advise the board on policy changes needed to address audit findings. Provide other advice and assistance as requested by the board and be subject to the same requirements regarding the confidentiality of audit information as those imposed by the board and the Audit Act and rules of the state auditor. And powers, again, this part is something that was recommended by the attorney. It says, audit committee shall have deliberative and recommending powers only with the action to be taken by the board. The audit committee will meet with sufficient regularity to fulfill its statutory duties, including at least one monthly, I guess there's an error there, that should be meeting after the audit work begins, until the conclusion of the audit. And the audit committee chair shall preside at the audit committee meetings. And that paragraph was something that was suggested by the attorney, and we accepted that. The audit committee agendas will be prepared, and this is where we made a change, will be prepared by the audit committee and ex officio members. In other words, there will be agenda recommendations that will not be challenged. That whoever makes them, they'll be placed on the agenda, and then we'll deal with them in the next meeting. Let's see, the agenda will reflect and fulfill the subcommittee's statutory duties. All audit committee notices and agendas will be posted and/or published in accordance to the Open Meetings Act. Minutes will be kept for each meeting as a statutory committee, and the audit committee will comply with the Open Meetings Act. The audit committee may convene in closed session only in matters deemed confidential under the New Mexico Audit Act and only in accordance to the Open Meetings Act. Again, that would be edited part of we did make changes to what it is the council was advising, and what we did delete or did not incorporate that language in that paragraph is where the chair and the superintendent and/or designee would, in the event of a disagreement between the chair and the superintendent regarding the agenda, the board president will determine the agenda. That was removed. The audit committee will present its findings and recommendations to the board and during the regular board meeting before the board takes action on such matters. If, and there's a final paragraph, if in the performance of its statutory duties, the audit committee suspects waste, fraud, abuse, theft, noncompliance, or misrepresentation of funds, or need to quantify to the extent of those losses, the audit committee may recommend to the board that it authorize district-initiated special audits or examinations and enter into a professional service contract for the special audit and or examination under the State Audit Act and its implementing regulations, specifically 2.2.215, paragraph C of New Mexico Administrative Code. And that would be what we are recommending the board adopt as its policy.
So we still need to do a first reading, second reading, public input, and then we can move forward with the process.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Any other questions? Anything else, Mr. Guadiana? For your report?
No, we do have updates that we had anticipated having the 21-22 audit material ready by the end of December. That's now been moved to the end of January. And we have no success at this point for having additional assistance by an outside contractor yet. But yet there's optimism that the 2021 audit should be, fieldwork should be done by the end of the month. And then the 2022-23 audit within a few months after that, and all of the 24 audit, 23-24 audit be done also before the end of the school year.
Will we have confirmation on our next board meeting that it is going to be complete?
No, so far we would not, those are just deadlines. I mean, those are representations of what is, they expect can be done. And it's been rolling for a couple of years that way. And also the special audit, there has been contact made with people that they were trying to get additional, it included 2 school boards and somebody else, 2 school board members. And only one is seeking to respond. The other 2 are not, with the exception of one making a comment that the board was not aware of a particular finding that we've discovered. Well, not aware of, well, not responsible for it in terms of acknowledging that it should be done in the way that was resulted in a finding. That's my report.
Thank you. Would we be okay taking a 5-minute recess? Is that okay?
Can we go to the playground?
I'd like to make a motion to take a 5-minute recess to use the restroom, please. Second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. guys in? Did you find what they said was yours? Oh. As a teacher, I understand.
They know what a girl likes.
That was really nice of them. All right, are we ready to come back? All right. Okay, that puts us at item 7, action items. 7A, approval of minutes of regular board meeting of December 9th, 2024. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move that we approve the minutes of the regular board meeting, December 9th, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to 7B, approval of the bills. These did go before the Finance Committee. Is there any other discussion?
I just, again, right, just appreciate Mr. Escala. He's a big part of the Finance Committee, and he keeps us on our toes and goes through every single bill in question, right? So appreciate his efforts every time we meet.
Yes, he's been an asset to the committee. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move that we approve the bills.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. That moves us to item C, approval of budget decrease 24,194, comprehensive literacy state development, CLSD grants. Mr. Ryan, do you want to speak to this?
Yes, when this budget was built last year, it was built at you'll see on the second page. I estimated that we were going to carry over $652,000 into this year, and we actually carried $649,000. So it was a difference of $2,154. So now we have to make a budget decrease in order to, that way our budget reflects the true carryover of this year. So what I'm proposing is just a decrease in the teacher salary line item, $2,154. We had extra money in that line. So that's where I'm proposing that we decrease this budget at. Any questions?
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the budget decrease 24,194 CLSD grants as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item D. Approval of budget transfer 24,194, comprehensive literacy state development, the CLSD grants. Go ahead, Mr. Ryan.
Okay, and this next one, this is the same grant, this is the budget transfer, and it's transferring from one function to the other. And this is pretty much just a housekeeping item here to keep the budget straight. And we finalized all the salaries, so everything was up in the air going into the year with all the different grants and how we were gonna fund all the positions under this program. And once we had it all figured out how we were gonna fund them, these transfers need to be implemented. And it's taking from the teacher salary line item that I had mentioned to you, and we're funding the partial salary of the coordinator for the CLSD program and partial salary for family engagement of the program. Any questions? It is salary and benefits for both of those positions is what it is.
Seeing no questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the budget transfer to 24,194 CLSD grants.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item E, approval of our first quarter financial report. Go ahead, Mr. Ryan.
Okay, I submitted the financial report to PED, and I gave a copy. We discussed it in our finance committee meeting, and everything, we're pretty well on track where we should be for this part at this time of the year, so. Like I said, we had a good discussion in our finance committee meeting, and, Mr. Esqueda brought up some good points, and we discussed everything. And, I did include, for Mr. Guadiana's request, a copy of last year's budget to see, that way it can be compared to where we're at, so. If you have any questions on this report, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions or discussion?
I'd like to say thank you very much for providing this. This is the first one I've seen, probably in 7 years. So going way back. I would like to spend a little bit more time trying to understand and read any trends that may be noteworthy to discuss at the next meeting. This is an incredible amount of information to try to see if there's any problems that are being that we can head off by analyzing this data. But I do have one question. When you have the, let me see, where is that? The uncollected balances that you list, is that encumbered, or is that, I've never seen uncollected
Okay,
balances.
you're looking at the revenue report.
Yes.
And let's say, for instance, operational. We have a budget, we're due to collect in this current fiscal year, we're due to receive 15,970,000. So far, as of that date of the report, we have collected 3,972,000, leaving an uncollected balance of 11,997. So really the uncollected balance, that is what we anticipate receiving for the remainder of the year. So it's pretty much just anticipation, a forecast of what we have coming due to us throughout the remainder of the year.
What's the volatility in that?
You know, this one is pretty straightforward. It doesn't change because with our operational budget, we have our 910B5, which PED sets our funding for our state equalization guarantee. Once that's set, they just divide it by 12, and we get 12 monthly installments from PED. So really, there's no volatility in this. It's pretty set, pretty straightforward. We will be receiving the $11,997,000. We will be receiving that. Just a matter of equal installments over the year, the school year.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the first quarter financial report.
I move that we approve the first quarter financial report as presented.
Do you have a second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item F.
If I could request, Frank, could it be possible to get this on a spreadsheet?
Yeah, I could probably put this onto the spreadsheet for you. This comes in PDF, but I'll see what I could do for, I'll
I
do that.
appreciate it.
All right, that moves us to item F, approval of the collective bargaining agreement. I know Mr. Lewis was here last meeting to speak to it. Mr. Corey, is there anything you'd like to say about it, speak to it?
No, absolutely. I'm extremely proud of the team. It's been a long go of negotiations back and forth, which were very positive. As Mr. Lewis said in our last meeting, you know, we both feel very confident in the document, and it, you know, I would recommend it being approved as presented.
Any questions that maybe Mr. Corey can answer?
I have one. How many times have you met in the last year?
So I know there was a question where you felt like you were invited. Can you pass these down, please? Well, take one, sorry. Take one and pass. So if you look at the first page, this is the minutes from our August 12th, 2024 meeting. If you turn the page, this is when Mr. Guiana was appointed to the CBA bargaining team. If you flip to the next page, this is the invitation. So we've only had 2 meetings, to answer your question. So we had one meeting on August 22nd where you could see all the people invited to that meeting. If you turn the page, the second meeting was on September 12th. And again, you can see all the people invited to that meeting. So we only had 2 meetings, and these are the invitations that went out to both of those meetings. And all the members were invited to each meeting. If you continue to turn here, you can see who attended each of those meetings. These are our sign-in sheets.
During the last meeting, I asked if I had been invited, and clearly it is in one of them, but I never received an invitation on the second one.
All I know is the system must have worked because we used exactly the same system, and you attended the first meeting that happened in August. So I don't know where the glitch is, but we do exactly the same thing on our side every time.
Okay, but, so, the dynamics of the meeting prior to this was that we got the contract, and the motion was to approve the contract, and we hadn't been briefed on any of the changes that had occurred in any of these meetings, to give a full context, and we weren't even anticipating the contract to come to us. That kind of caused some concern on whether the board's goals were met, or if anything there that would have been objectionable to the board had not been presented. We didn't know what was online with what was going to go on, and to be given the full contract 3 days prior to the vote was a matter of trying to see where are we with this. Does the board agree with the contract? And not to say that it needed to be reviewed for us to agree, but if we would have presentations prior to it being presented to us, that would have made the acceptance of it a lot easier. And so the hesitation, at least on my part, I can say, was that this was something that we've been left out of the loop on to the end, where I would be ready to sign off on it, saying that yes, the board's the board's guidance had been followed. And it's impossible to follow the guidance as the negotiations are dynamic. Things can get added, things can get deleted, and so the board doesn't have any guidance on that unless we know about it. And
So I know I've given you multiple updates through the process, and at any of those times, you were welcome to ask any questions about any of the things that were happening.
when was the last time we received
I can go back and look through minutes, but I know I've done a few.
I think it was after that September meeting you had with the team. We talked about some of the things I recall in your office. And there's been no update since then.
No changes.
And Mr. Lewis was here last week to answer any questions we might have had. I felt like we were heard with our recommendations and our negotiation strategies.
I think it's been a lot of work, and our district has lacked this for many years, and I'm excited, actually, hoping that this will get approved this evening so that we actually have a current CBA document in place.
I also have a question about the memo that was sent by council. Seemed to infer that the expectation was that all board members would be part of the negotiating committee?
That was not what the memo stated. The memo was sent out, and of course, it's an attorney-client privilege, so I can't really speak to that right now.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion. Or I'll move to approve the collective bargaining agreement. Yeah, as it is now, and with the last update Mr. Corey gave, Mr. Lewis said it was a good faith effort by both sides. So that's why I'm making a motion to approve. Okay, any other discussion?
I want to thank, the staff that was involved with the CBA, at our last meeting, I did not vote yea or nay based on the fact that I didn't have a chance to review it in detail like I would like to. I did have a chance to do that this time, and our staff members are in agreeing that it's a good CBA, so, that's what they get paid the win for, and that's why I'm gonna agree that we approve this.
Okay. I'll call for a vote to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. That moves us to item G, approval of the athletic handbook.
I just wanted to bring the athletic handbook back. There was a couple minor changes that we needed to make. And I'll just review them super fast here. But on the first page, we just changed a couple of the names to reflect that Mrs. Tao is now one of the administrators, and we just add a slash at athletic director behind Mr. Gropp's name. So just a few minor changes there. On page 18, we wanted the policy to be in line with our current discipline policy. We found that there was a discrepancy there, and we wanted those policies to be in line, and so we changed the athletic handbook to be reflective of our policies that we already have in place. So that's the change you see on page 18.
Can I interrupt for a second on?
Yes, sir.
Page 18, there's one, appears to be a typo, where on the second line, you say, while the student is in middle school / junior high school, junior high, is that meant to be high school, or it's saying middle school and junior high?
Oh, okay. Yes, junior should not be there, middle school / high school.
Okay. Also, on that same line, it goes on to say, something will begin anew on the first day of the student's last day in 8th grade.
I know it sounds.
I couldn't follow that.
I know that. I said the same thing, but that's the way the policy reads, because I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. So it's saying the last day the student is in middle school, they're part of that policy. Once they move to high school, then they're switching. I agree with the wording, doesn't sound, and there's actually a spelling error there too that we caught already.
So would that be actually, because both of those refer to the time they're in eighth grade, wouldn't it be like either the last day of the eighth grade and first day of the ninth grade?
I gladly would reword it where it makes better sense. It's just mirroring the policy is what we're doing. So if we change here, we're gonna need to change it on the other one as well.
Okay.
And then the only other change is on page 27. And we currently have eighth grade athletes that do participate in our high school sports. And so this is just clearing that up. And before our policy, there was only, it was listed, the sports that they were able to participate in. And as you can see, we've changed that to that. If they go ahead and follow the NMAA and the CCS eligibility rules, they're able to participate in any sports and activities. But also meaning that is once they make that change, they can't go back. So once they choose to participate in high school in that sport, that is where they will stay. They cannot finish a season or whatever and return back to middle school sports.
What if they play two sports? Like, if they decide not to pursue a high school?
So if they, say hypothetically, they played high school football, but they choose to play middle school basketball, as long as they start that season and stay with that season in middle school, they're fine.
Okay.
But hypothetically, if they were playing middle school football and then say the need was for that athlete to move to the high school and they make that move, they just couldn't come back and participate in middle school sports anymore.
Okay.
Once that transition is made.
And this applies only to eighth graders?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I just wanted to bring this back to you because of those few changes that were made during the year here.
Right now, we do currently have eighth graders at the high school level.
Yes,
Based
yes,
on
sir, we do.
It's based on participation.
Correct.
Any other questions?
No.
So do we want to make a motion to approve? Do we want to make a motion to table?
I move that we approve the athletic handbook as presented with Mr. Coy's changes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item H, board reorganization. So item one, reorganization of Board of Education, election of officers. So I included our board policy in the packet. And I believe we start with the president position. Did everyone get to read the board policy? Yeah. Okay. Or I can read it out loud if you guys like me to. Are we good?
I have it here.
Okay. So I can open the floor for nominations for the position of president.
I nominate Gabby Begay as board president.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other nominations?
I would nominate myself. So.
Is there a second? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for the second for the nomination for myself, and I will accept the nomination. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, that's still 3-1. Thank you. I've really enjoyed being the president. I hope I can continue to learn and grow and work alongside you guys. So the next position is for vice president. Are there any nominations for vice president?
I want to nominate myself for vice president, so Emery Heredia for vice president.
Okay, is there a second? I'd like to second the nomination. Any other nominations for vice president?
Nominate Mr. Guadiana, Vice President.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and call the vote for Ms. Heredia first. All those in favor of Ms. Heredia being vice president signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, so it dies. I'll go ahead and call for the vote for Mr. Guadiana to be vice president. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. So that also dies. Let's look at the policy. It just says a nominee who receives the highest number of votes shall be appointed to the office of nomination. I mean, do we want to keep doing this until we get a different outcome, or we need to move forward with? Where do we call the attorney, see what we do?
Tiebreaker.
Makes it hard without 5-2.
I know. I don't know. Our board policy just says with the highest number of tallies, and it was a tie. Let me call our legal counsel. I'm sure they've encountered this problem.
Table maybe?
I don't know.
Can you do that to me real quick? Is it too late for Angelina to log in?
Hi, Elena, it's Gabby from Cobre Schools. If you can call as soon as you get this, I would appreciate it. We're in a situation of electing officers, and it's a tie for the vice president position. So please can you call as soon as. Are we okay to move to the secretary treasurer position?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any nominations for secretary treasurer?
And nominate David Terrazas.
No, I'll second the nomination. Any other nominations? Okay, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor of Mr. Terrazas serving as our secretary treasurer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Terrazas. I'd really like to get this done. Who else could we call, Mr. Corey? Elena, Roxy, has she been helping at all?
She has.
Let me try
Just,
her.
we've had difficulty across the board.
Are we okay to move forward and then come back to this if we get an answer tonight? Or are you guys wanting to table the election of the vice president?
I think we can come back if they call back.
Okay, what do you guys think?
I agree.
Okay. All right, that moves us to item 2, board discussion and appointment of 2 board members to serve on the finance committee. I'd like to nominate Mr. Terrazas to the finance committee. I'm sorry, to appoint him to the finance committee. Is there a second?
I second.
All right.
It's an election? But it was,
Oh, I'm sorry, we have discussion and appointment, and I believe I get to appoint with the discussion. David, would you like to continue serving on the finance committee?
Yes, I would.
Okay. I'd also like to appoint myself to the finance committee. I've really enjoyed serving on there and learning more about school budget, the other side of what a teacher never gets to see. Mrs. Harden, I spoke to her at our last finance committee meeting. She said she was not able to continue serving on that committee due to her daughter. So, just wanted to thank her for her service to that committee. So now we will have an election of a committee chair for the finance committee. David, is that something you're interested in doing?
I mean, health-wise, my family is I don't have the commitment. I mean, I have the commitment to make the meeting, just not the extra.
Okay, then I'd like to nominate myself for chair of the finance committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, since this is an election, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign?
abstain.
Okay. All right, item 4, board discussion and appointment of 2 board members to serve on the audit committee. Any discussion?
I would like to continue serving on the audit committee.
Okay,
I also would like to continue to serve on the audit committee.
okay. I'll go ahead and appoint you 2 members to the audit committee. For item 5, election of the committee chair for the audit committee. I'd like to nominate Ms. Heredia for chair of the audit committee.
Second.
Okay, there's a nomination and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I'd like to nominate myself as well.
Okay. Is there a second for Mr. Guadiana's nomination?
I'll second.
Okay. I'll call for Ms. Heredia's nomination as chair of the audit committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. I'll go ahead and call for the vote for Mr. Guadiana to be audit committee chair. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
So we're still stuck in the same situation.
So I've tried to reach out to a few people and I've been unsuccessful. I mean, my only recommendation is to table them until you have 5 members, and then I would go through the process again.
Okay. So are we okay with tabling the election of the vice president?
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
And I know you guys have gone through the process, and I'm not sure if Ms. Harden would like to nominate herself for any of the other committees. I'm not sure where she I know you guys have already kind of gone through that, but I know she's kind of missed out on her opportunity to nominate herself or asked to sit on a committee if she chooses so.
Okay. Well, we did finance and that was approved, but I'm asking right now if everyone would be okay tabling the voting for the vice president position. Is there a motion to table that election of that specific office?
I move that we table that specific office.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling until we have a full board, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then can we also table, the election of a committee chair for the audit committee?
I move that we also table for the committee chair of the audit committee.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. All right, that moves us to item 6, which we covered. So item I, discussion and possible censure, verbal, written removal of privileges of board member Gilbert Guadiana for the violations of board policy B-0750 BCA. So a censure is an expression of disapproval. The U.S. Supreme Court recognized in Houston Community College System versus Wilson, 2022, that elected bodies in this country have long exercised the power to censure their members. As early as colonial times, the power of assemblies to censure their members was assumed. Censures have also proven common at the state and local level. Censure has been placed on the agenda because I've had several board members individually express to me their concerns about board member Guadiana's conduct. Since we are a public body and are required to comply with the Open Meetings Act and operate in the open, although this isn't easy, I feel it is important that we discuss it as a body in the open. As the agenda is written, this board could decide not to censure, decide to issue a verbal censure or written censure, and as part of any censure, remove privileges. In my view, any censure should be based on the violation of board policy or state or federal law. Everyone was given board policy BCA and the New Mexico Administrative Code 6-29, 6.29.1.9. Based on the conduct I have observed, I believe Mr. Guadiana has violated the board policy BCA, and in doing so, has undermined the effectiveness of the board. Those specific provisions are in the policy. Delegate administrative and supervisory functions to the superintendent of schools. Also work through the superintendent, make criticisms of school administration and/or personnel only to him. And I think it was evident at our last meeting with the way board member Guadiana conducted himself with our business director, our finance person, as well as our union president. Additionally, state law, the New Mexico Administrative Code, requires local school boards to delegate administrative and supervisory functions to the local superintendent and refrain from involvement in delegated administrative functions. I believe that Mr. Guadiana's hostile behavior towards staff is undermining the superintendent's functions in violation of the New Mexico Administrative Code. At this time, I would also like to ask other board members to share. Ms. Heredia, is there anything you'd like to share?
On the censure?
Yes.
I
Or
think-
anything you may have observed?
I wasn't able to attend the last meeting due to me finishing up my micro credentials. That was the last day I had to turn everything in. But I did watch the recorded meeting on YouTube, so I was able to see the conversations that were going back and forth between Mr. Lewis and Vice President Guadiana. And there were, some concerns with the conversations that were going back and forth. And in addition to that, when we were at Snow Middle School, when did we meet? At Central Elementary, when they hosted us, and the concerns that the staff members and members of the district had brought forward when we went over the feedback from them about the Board of Education. A lot of those comments were concerning, and most of them were directed to Mr. Guadiana and how he conducts himself in meetings and in other manners. And that was coming from, not members of the board, but members of the school district. And there was some big concerns in those comments that were made, which I think also we need to take into consideration, because that was our way of having them give us some feedback on how we can improve ourselves as a board and what they think of us as a whole and as individuals.
Thank you. Mr. Terrazas?
Well, I go back to the last meeting, going back to the board norms. The model of professional respect from all members of the district and the community, and felt there was an attack towards Mr. Corey's direct reports, and the verbal exchange between Mr. Lewis and Mr. Guadiana was uncalled for. That was one of the things that, for the CBA, I felt that, it should have been rectified then, and it didn't, and that's why 3 weeks later, or a month later, we're here.
Mr. Guadiana, would you like an opportunity to respond?
Yes. One thing is, the CBA was not approved. There were 3 members here, and it was not approved, and that was not a unilateral action taken by myself. There were ideas, there were concerns that were shared by the majority of the present, that resulted in having no vote and it being kicked down the road a little bit. The comments that were made by Mr. Lewis were pretty aggressive in terms of saying that he told me why or how to be part of those meetings, which I still to this point don't understand. But the other part is that the inference that the accusation that I had opportunity to attend meetings in the ways that he told me I could was not true. So it went on quite a bit. It went in a circle for a little while, but it stayed in the same way. I was not disrespectful to him. He was not disrespectful for me. There is a point of stating what you feel and stating what you feel is true. And if that is in disagreement with somebody, that should not be something that we should punish. And the other part with the director of finance, there wasn't the superintendent here, and there wasn't the ability to go to have that discussion. However, this was something that was put on the agenda, and on the onset, the response was, okay, what do you want to hear? There's nothing prepared. You're not going to tell me how it is that the process works. And He says, no. Basically, he refused to answer how it worked and was asking the question whether I had attended other schools to see what it is they do. So the exchange was one of responding to each other. But 2.5 years of asking for specific things related to policy and not getting them is very frustrating. And I'll share more of that in my comments regarding board self-evaluation. But if it is that I was using foul language, degrading somebody in terms of the way making references to them, that did not occur. There is free speech that is involved, and there is the concept of accountability, as the irony of the reference that Mr. Armendariz made on the letter to the editor strikes really incredibly strong in this point. When we have three years of not filing an audit, annual audits, and the consequence for that is that we don't build a new school. And nobody on the board has demonstrated a concern about that. As a matter of fact, board leadership, as well as the superintendent, have kicked the can down the road for over 1.5 years. These, as Mr. Armendariz stated, it's not rocket science. And just last month, actually this month, was another effort, and another example of kicking the can down the road. And the irony of the letter to the editor is that that's what we're doing in such a way that we're preventing a school being built. Silver's already getting Cliff on the line for getting a new school. And the availability of money is only because there's been a pool set aside by the governor's office and the legislature that's available for the money. Right now, if it is that we continue going the way we're going, we're not going to get any capital funds whatsoever. And if that pool of money is exhausted, then we will be responsible for contributing at least 53% of the costs. If we had compliance with audits, and we would be able to apply for the funds and pay only $6 million, which is a lot, and that's just for the architectural fees, but we wouldn't be responsible for the somewhere between $40 and $45 million that would be spent on the actual construction. Continuing this way of kicking the can down the road is going to leave us in a place where we don't build a new school. It could be that that pool of money dries up, and think that it would be available indefinitely is wrong. So there are a number of dynamics where the board leadership as well as the superintendent have intended to circumvent the audit committee's ability to move in the right direction to ensure that when we get looked at, we will have policies in place. We will have mechanisms that show accountability. The special audit will present challenges that we must meet to show accountability, not only to ourselves, but to the public. The delay of that and the president's action to try to kill the audit is unfathomable. knowing that you can't kill a special audit, you can only transfer it to the Attorney General or the state auditor's office.
I have never tried to kill an audit.
Yes, you have.
Never in a public setting have I ever said.
Never
I'd like
in a
to-
public setting, but you did talk to the committee saying that you wanted to meet and have this audit, not continue with the audit of, the special audit. And you made that presentation to me as well as to other members of the committee and the auditor herself.
I did not want to kill the audit. At the time, we were in a financial crisis where we had to lay off a bunch of staff, and I asked that it be revised, not that we completely cancel the audit, that we look at the scope of work where we could save money, and our auditor that we were working with agreed. And you were there, I was present, and we all came to an agreement about changing the scope of work so that we could continue to keep employees as we had to lay off numerous employees. It was never to cancel the audit, it was to look at the scope of work and see how we can continue forward. Because at the time, we were looking at the kids' best interests. We
The-
didn't have money for extensive audit, it was more to look at the scope of work, which we came to a resolution. And that happened months ago.
We did not change the scope of work. The work has remained the same.
I disagree with you, Mr. Guadiana.
Okay, so anyway, there's also been the efforts to interject.
And I also think you just violated confidentiality of an executive session. But I am not here to argue with you. I wanted you to have the opportunity to respond. And I feel like you have responded. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yes. The most recent,
Sorry.
probably going to be the vote.
Hi, Elena. It's okay, we went ahead and tabled, we were going through board elections and there was a tie. There's only a 4-member board meeting on it, so. And we didn't know what to do in that case, so we just went ahead and tabled until we have our fifth person. There was 2 people for Ms. Heredia, to be the vice president, and then there was, 2 people for Mr. Guadiana to be vice president. And something, similarly that happened with, the audit committee chair position too, within 2 weeks. So, right, so, was that the right action to take, please? We went ahead and tabled it. Okay, sounds great, thank you for returning the call. Okay. It's okay, bye. Sorry about that. You said you didn't make the right call.
And there have been occurrences where the board president and the superintendent have sought counsel on items relating to how it is that the agendas are set, and also determining as to whether we have the power to, or we have the authority to pursue action, to pursue monitoring areas where we feel, where we've observed possible weaknesses. These discussions between the superintendent, the board president, particularly who's not involved in the audit committee, occurred outside of anybody's participation from the audit committee, other than being informed of it after the fact. There was no effort to make a collaboration, to create a collaboration. It was a confrontation. It is,
Mr. Guadiana, you can continue to go on and target me, that's fine. I don't mind taking it. But there's members here that have also expressed things.
I understand, but the dynamic is that we haven't been given, and the severity of what's going on is not being discussed. The direction to move forward has been hampered, and that causes a level of frustration.
And I feel like that's you. We wanted to move forward. We want to look at the best interest of our students, our teachers, our staff, and we want some positivity in our district. We want to be able to function well and get along with each other and have common courtesy.
The functionality is 3 years of unfiled audits. And when I
don't chair that committee, I chair finance, and we're working just fine in finance. But like I said, I don't want to get into a he said, she said type of interaction here. So I want to make a motion to issue a written censure of Mr. Guadiana for violating board policy BCA, specifically delegating the administrative and supervisory functions to the superintendent of schools, and work through the superintendent, make criticisms of school administration or personnel only to him, and as well as the New Mexico Administrative Code, which says, requires local school boards to delegate administrative and supervisory functions to the local superintendent, and referring to their involvement in delegated administrative functions. Based on
point
the
of order.
Based on the conduct described by board members, Ms. Heredia brought forward, myself, Secretary Terrazas, as publicly described in this meeting, and to authorize legal counsel to draft a written censure from the recording of this meeting for approval at the next board meeting. So I made a motion.
But point of orders cannot be ignored.
What's your point of order, sir?
The point of order is that last part that you read, that the board shall designate the responsibilities and personnel and all to the superintendent, is something that is done, and it's not it's not an action that the subcommittees are involved in. It is an action that the boards determine, and that's done even without mention. Every year, the superintendent has all those designated responsibilities. It is in statute. It's never been violated.
Okay, I'd like to continue with my motion. Thank you for your point of order. Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. I'd also like to make a motion that as part of the censure, Mr. Guadiana be denied the privilege of serving on any board committees in 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Discussion?
yes, discussion.
There is nobody on this board that has participated in audits. So this is a very conscious effort to undermine the board's ability to address the issues as they come forward, particularly in audits. There is no experience here other than Ms. Heredia has had a little bit of experience. Nobody has gone through the PSAP that everybody should be very familiar with. And this is reckless. But I see it. That's my comment.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. Still passes. That moves us to item 8, new business. Item A, our board self-evaluation. I sent this last week. Did everyone have an opportunity to go through it?
I did.
Okay. You reviewed, but didn't have a chance to fill it out? What about you? Same.
Mr. Terrazas.
Mr. Guadiana, would you like to discuss, or would you like to wait till the next meeting? I also filled it out.
I'd like to discuss it.
Okay, we can go ahead and start with you.
Okay, starting out with A, which is the board relationship with the superintendent, and number one is the board imparts information on issues, needs, and complaints in a manner allowing the superintendent the opportunity to solve the related problems in a professional manner. And my rating on that was satisfactory. The second question on board relationship with superintendent is the board clearly interprets its position on controversial matters pertaining to the district, thereby enabling the superintendent to properly carry out the wishes of the board. And I put unsatisfactory on that. The number three, the board disregards personalities and considers recommendations from the superintendent in an unbiased and objective manner. And I put needs improvement on that. And number four, the last question in this category, the board communicates views of personal effectiveness, includes views of related to the superintendent in a confidential and professional manner. And I put needs improvement. And my comments on this related to the second question, that rating was unsatisfactory. It says, in the recently scheduled audit committee meeting, the superintendent and the director of finance purposely did not invite the district's contract auditor to the audit committee meeting, stating that he/they, meaning the board president, the finance director, and the superintendent, did not see a reason for the auditor participating in the meeting, and therefore did not send the invitation to the auditor or link to join or provide equipment for remote access. And there's note, the audit committee's primary statutory function is to meet with the contracted auditor at least monthly while preparing the annual audit. The board leadership promotes divisive actions interfering with the work of the audit committee. And the president of the board president had contacted the council to prepare a policy and position statements regarding the board's membership of the audit committee. The recommendations provided by council were presented to the board as founded in law, when clearly much of the opinion contains no legal basis. Instead, a simple opinion with no example of precedent cited. Also, according to statute, the board designates a member to the team's contract negotiating committee to ensure that negotiations align with the board's guidance. The board representative, which would be myself, was appointed by the president. He did attend 2 meetings in 2023. I didn't think it was 2024. But anyway, however, the negotiations committee met without informing the board's representative to attend a meeting in 2024. And that evidently was incorrect, but there was one meeting that I attended in 2024. Nevertheless, the board president posted the teacher's contract on the board's agenda for approval, knowing the superintendent wasn't going to be present. And let's see. Please note that the superintendent had not provided updates to the board for over a year, and nor was there any presentation prior to or at the board meeting when the contract was to be considered to be approved for approval. Then number 3, the proposed censure of a board member as an immediate action resulting in the non-passage of the teacher's contract is a reflection of the practice of it's who says what instead of what is being done. The mode of operation, it is the mode of the operation for the board president. And B, board relationship with the community. The board recognizes that citizens have entrusted them with the educational development of our children and the youth of this community, and I put satisfactory. The board recognizes that the community expects the first and greatest concern of the schools to be the best interests of each and every one of the young people without distinction as to who they are or what background they have. I put satisfactory. And recognize there isn't, the three ratings are satisfactory, needs improvement, or unsatisfactory. So there isn't anything higher than satisfactory. The board relationship with the community, okay, continues. And to question number 3, the board enacts policies supporting the effort of the administration in helping the people of this community to have facts about their schools to the end that they may readily provide the finest possible school program, school staff, and school facilities. I put unsatisfactory on that one. And these are the comments on that section related to board relationship to the community. And with respect to question number 3, the board leadership tried to kill a special audit and that identifies monumental changes that need to be done in the district. Since the leadership was unsuccessful in killing the audit, they have resorted to efforts to undermine the committee's role in ensuring that the financial compliance and transparency to the community is held. Another example is that a couple of years ago, we increased the district's technology bonds by 2.5% so that we could qualify for the construction funding of our high school and our junior high schools. We proposed the district, we promised the district that if we did not qualify for the capital projects, that we would rescind the bond increase going forward. We have known that the district has been disqualified to receive any capital funding because the district has not submitted an annual budget in the past 3 years. The board has not yet rescinded the increase to the technology bonds, nor has it shared the reason why we're disqualified for the capital funds, or discuss any effort or status by the district to comply with the audit requirements in general or general financial controls. C, board relationship between members during meetings. First question, first category. Individual board members treat each other of the board and professional staff with respect during board meetings. I put satisfactory. 2, relationships, let's see, the differences of opinion influencing board members' votes are based on issues at hand and not on a personality basis. Needs improvement, I put. The board relationships between members during meetings, still that category. Question number 3, all board members conduct themselves in a manner as to which emphasize that individual board members have the authority only when convened legally and conducting board meetings with a legal quorum present. I put unsatisfactory. And the comments on this section says, this fall, a complaint to the New Mexico Athletic Association was filed against the district. In the subsequent meeting, a member raised the issue of the complaint. The board president stated that she had already responded to the NMAA in a letter just as a board member, not as a board president. No further action was discussed, and the board was never consulted, nor did it approve of anyone responding to the complaint. Further, a terminated employee filed a claim against the district that, a terminated employee filed a discrimination claim against the district, and that the previous board president, myself, and the previous superintendent had discriminated against them. The complaint was heard by the state's insurance provider. The board president had the role of providing the district's information to the lead attorney, and at no time did the president share any information to the board of what was provided to the attorney representing the district. Additionally, I was not allowed to be present at the time the complaint was heard, and when I asked for documentation from the district, the district provided to the hearing, the board president and the superintendents, that they didn't know what was provided. Bear in mind, there was $300,000 that was lost in this
I'd like
particular
to
case.
interject. I feel like this is, you saw that censure was on the agenda, and you're coming after me. I feel like this is when you
May I
filled out.
continue?
No, I'm making a comment here. I feel like this is an attack on me, and there's a lot of false statements that you're making. And I'd like if we can end this discussion right now. I'd like to make a motion to end this discussion.
This
Is there a
is
second?
this is an evaluation of the superintendent. It's a matter of public record.
I made a motion to end this discussion. Is there a second?
I second.
Or self-evaluation.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I,
Okay. That moves us to item 10, board members report.
point of order.
Yes.
This evaluation is public information, and this is the appropriate forum for board members to
Yes.
provide an
Yes, it
assessment.
is, but we just made a motion and a second to end the discussion. And if you'd like it on the next agenda, we can make that happen. We are now on item 10, board members report. Would anyone like to report out? Oh, I'm sorry, old business, our board retreat. I apologize. Mrs. Harden did mention she was sick this morning, but she said she would accommodate any date that we put forward for the board retreat. So I was looking at February. We have our board training up in Santa Fe, the 13th, 14th, and 15th. So I was looking at either February 8th or February 22nd. It's a Saturday.
I think it might be better if we met after the training,
Okay. So
just in
maybe-
case there's anything that is valuable there that could be brought back.
So maybe the 22nd?
I won't be available, I'll be sick next week.
Okay.
What about the 8th, Mr. Tarapa? That also works for me.
Or even March 1st if you want to do it after our training.
You gotta go to Western at noon.
The 8th? What about March 1st?
Just said you had a game night.
The 22nd. Should be going to March.
Would March 1st work
March
for everyone?
1st.
Mr. Guadiana, does that work for you?
Yes.
Will you let us know a location? For
Absolutely.
the board retreat?
Absolutely.
And I'll let Mrs. Harden know. She also, when we talked about our work session, she said the first thing that she wanted to really look at was some of the policies and just having a discussion about the process. And she said if anyone absolutely had any other ideas for work session to bring them forward. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. And that
So I would, I'd request any of the board members, if they would like something presented there, to let me know so that we could work on that.
okay. Sounds good. You just want us to email you?
That'd be fine.
Okay. Is there a deadline we need to get it to you by?
Well, the sooner the better, so that way I can do my best in bringing in presenters or whatever needs that we feel we have.
Okay. Any other discussion around the board retreat?
I think, the members that are attending the session, the 13th or 15th, should be able to bring some good stuff to the retreat, right?
Absolutely. I'd like to attend.
Are you gonna go, Gabby?
I am.
I have to take time off work, but.
I still have the other one that I'm gonna be attending.
See if they would do this
It has to be
professionally.
both evidently, Portales and.
I would.
And I have the application throughout the.
Okay, Charlene, I'll go as well. Do I need to send you an email? No? Okay.
Okay, that moves us to item 10, our board members report. Ms. Heredia, do you have anything to report?
No, I just want to thank all the principals for coming and sharing their photos, their data, their plans, and their interventions with us. Each time they come, it's always really, really good stuff. So thank you to Mrs. Tao and Mrs. Ogas and to Ms. Ramirez for sharing her data with us as well. I hope everybody had a restful and enjoyable break and was able to spend time with their families. We're in the last semester of the year, and from here on out, it goes really fast. So I'm just wishing everyone the best of luck. Hang in there, because it's a while before the next break. So, and I'm looking forward to going to that training.
Just kind of echoing what Ms. Heredia said. The data looks good. The interventionists that we currently have in place are doing a good job working hard with our students to get them to where they need to be. I like that Ms. Ogas shared about revamping her intervention session, looking at a time that would probably work better for staff. But it's crucial as a classroom teacher. We know how big interventions are and how they help kids develop those skills that they need. And I think that's it for my report.
Can I add a quick something too,
Sure.
Debbie? I liked how Mrs. Tao mentioned that her teachers were now doing the 4th and 5th grade model, where they were kind of switching to where one teacher is teaching the ELA and the other one is teaching the math and stuff. It's the departmentalized method, and so I was really excited to hear that and how she mentioned in just that little time that they've been doing it, they've seen good results. So I hope that they're able to continue that part and see if that method works well for them.
Sounds great. And then I also forgot to mention the Beyond textbooks. I have heard good things. There was some questions that I had asked Ms. Tao tonight. But it seems like that's gonna be a great resource for our teachers too in their instruction. Mr. Terrazas, do you have anything to report?
I'll just echo what you two have said already. I think the curriculum that's been presented over the last year is headed in the right direction. Just based on the BOI, the MOI stuff that we've seen so far from all the presenters, we're headed in the right direction. And then I did attend the School Board Association in December. There's a little pen, and then Mr. Guadiana got a exemplary award for 20 or more hours of training. Thank you for your service, and Mrs. Begay, you have also leadership achievement award.
Thank you.
And we can save this for
Mrs. Harden?
Mrs. Harden.
Mr. Guadiana, do you have anything to report?
Yes. I look forward to the release of the special audit and the context in which my concerns will, I think, be more validated. And as we go forward, I find it that having the challenge of coming up with the bonds in the future will be faced with the knowledge that there have been some concerns, and hopefully we can have those resolved in such a way that it restores voter and community support. And I hope the challenge is to the new audit committee chair that we look at that as a priority before that funding no longer is available, and/or as soon as we can get our children in a new school should be a high priority. And I look forward to finishing reading my board assessment, and we'll seek ways to make sure that my censure is quite acceptable, but to be critical of other board members is not acceptable. Certainly, the censure is one of what I would consider expressions of free speech, expressions of to have accountability. It isn't intended. Our board norms do not really address conflicts, and those are healthy. If we have a board where everything is polite and agreed to, I think you'll have the Board of Regents, which I think you're headed that direction now. So with that, I will say Happy New Year to everyone, and it's hopeful that we go together at some point.
Okay, that moves us to item 11, our superintendent's report. Mr. Corey?
The only thing I have this evening are the fundraisers, which were included in your board packets, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second? All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned at 7:32 p.m. Thank you all.